Born from shadow, sealed in truth, ancient blood, but faith rooted proof. History whispers, legends pretend. She chose the light where darkness ends. Eyes that see what most can't find. Gift of foresight, disciplined mind. Cross held steady, heart on guard. Truth cuts clean when nights get hard. She reads the silence, feels the room. Past and present start to bloom. Fear don't live. Born from shadow, sealed in truth.
Yeah.
Danielle, I can't hear you. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay. Danielle, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
There you got it.
Okay, I apologize.
Uh,
Okay, I think let me just close the. Can you hear everybody? I'm trying to get, because I'm working for the first time with the headphones. I'm just wondering, is there any echoing or anything, or is everything okay?
Everything's okay.
Okay, I'm
Sound
glad.
good.
Okay, I'm very happy. So it's a new system for me. I'm trying to work it out so that everything works out perfectly for everybody. So I'm glad that everybody can hear me. That's the most important thing. First of all, I did come prepared. Welcome everybody. I'm gonna start with our wonderful guest, Mr. Tim Swartz, wonderful friend. I first want to say thank you so much for sending me your book. I cannot wait to read it. I'm quite excited about it because this is going to be something that I do enjoy. It's just who I am. Tim is somebody who is going to be, I think, more than often in our show because it's just what we love to have. We have everything that is the best. And Paul is Emmy Academy Award winner, author, researcher, cryptozoologist, producer, and the list goes on. I'm just amazed, sir, and very honored to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's always great to be on with you, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you. And then I have my wonderful friend, co-host, and person that I admire and love very much. And I'm saying hello to his beautiful family in California. Great Paul, Mr. Paul Del Roberts. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Danielle. Tonight's going to be a great show. We got Tim Swartz.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And Tim Swartz is an Emmy Award winning television producer and
Mm-hmm.
videographer. Oh, excuse me.
Just got you all
And
choked up, didn't it?
That's
yes, he
the
got me
water.
all choked up. He was once the chief videographer and producer at WFYI, Channel 20 and Channel 38. He was both involved with. He was a news photographer, a reporter at WH10 TV. And
Wow.
you may have
W
seen him on
WHIO.
History
WHIO.
Channel. Oh, okay, okay. And you may have seen him on History Channel's History's Greatest Mysteries, Ancient Aliens, and William Shatner's The Unexplained.
Wow. We are quite impressed, Mr. Tim. I must say, you guys know me, and that's what I want to show you. I never come unprepared. So I always come and I dig. Today, people were quite excited about the last show. People do enjoy to hear about the ancient aliens, about Anunnaki, Sumerians, and, DNA and everything that is happening. I think we can go from different topics today. It's up to you, gentlemen. Please, everybody in the chat, welcome aboard. I must also say thank you, Pops or Mr. Gary, for being a right hand to us. We are always happy to have a wonderful support at the back. And basically, ladies and gentlemen, any questions that you have for us and for our wonderful, amazing guest, please do ask politely, and we will try our best to share, all the questions that you have. Mr. Paul, I will let you start, and I will jump in because I have my questions too that I kind of dig on. And we'll go as the audience or the viewers are also interested in topics that, Mr. Tim, forgive me, can share with us.
Well, most of your audience, they love stories about ghosts. And
Mm-hmm.
and Tim just recently put out this book.
Yeah.
It's called The Persistence of Ghosts. And a lot of people have contributed some stories and everything else, some articles, some research into this book. It's a fantastic book. It's out there now. You can get it over on Amazon. You'll probably pretty soon get it over at Barnes and Noble. So, Tim, can you tell us a little bit about this book?
Oh, sure. Well, I tell you something. This book would never have existed if it wasn't for the excellent contributions from people such as yourself.
Oh,
And
Thank you, Tim.
yeah, well, I mean, you and Scott Corrales and Sean Castile, all of you have been so fantastic in contributing chapters for our books. Not only this one, but our previous one, Weird Time. The one before that, which was called Mimics, The Others Among Us. And then we can take it back even further that all of us were contributors to the late Timothy Green Beckley and his Inner Light publications, Global Communications, book publishing. He did magazines as well. So, after Tim Beckley passed away, I wanted to keep the band together, so to speak. And so that's why I created Zontar Press to put out books. And like you said, our current one is called the Persistence of Ghost. And the genesis of this book had a lot to do with myself. I think that a lot of people may know me more for stuff that I've written about, especially like UFOs.
mm-hmm.
And I haven't put this really would be the first book that I have put out concerning ghost and other types of paranormal activity. Mimics The Other Among Us, somewhat. I mean, but this is our dive in head first into the whole ghosts and hauntings, why they happen, the way that they have happened throughout the centuries, pretty much unchanged, and then some hypotheses on what could be behind the whole ghost and haunting things. People have looked into this phenomena for centuries, and I can't say that we have any answers. I don't think anybody really will be able to come up with any definitive answers anytime soon. But I think that readers will look at this book, and some of the ideas that we present may open some eyes, and they may look at the whole ghost and hauntings phenomena in a completely different light.
Wow, I'm very excited to start reading this book. Everybody in my home, they know me, and people that are really close to me. I know Mr. Paul knows me a little bit longer, and Tim, I'm looking really forward to meet you in a person, especially when I do my own book publishing. I'm very, very close. I cannot wait. I'm quite excited, but I cannot wait to start reading your book. I'm a huge book lover. I must say, watching you on Ancient Aliens and Discovery Channel was quite an honor always to hear, the wisdom and the research that you did. Before we kind of switch the topic, I will let Mr. Paul ask a couple more questions. I will listen quietly because I have a couple that I prepare myself that I think I will kind of go and dig deeper into the rabbit hole.
Well, Tim, how did you get so interested into the paranormal?
Mm-hmm. Well, it started, and I've told this story before, and how I had to do an assignment when I was in elementary school, where we were all given headlines from the news that week, and write an essay, and then give it in front of the class. And one time, I got a story about UFOs, which I really didn't have much knowledge about, and so I gave my presentation, and I was then forever pegged by everyone at my school as the guy who believes in flying saucers and little green men from Mars. But what was interesting is that people, would come to me and tell me stories about their own personal experiences, stories that they may have never told anybody else, because it throws a lot of people off when they have a bizarre experience. It may be a little easier nowadays with all the reality television, about UFOs and Bigfoot and ghosts and things like that. But, when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot out there. And so when people would have a weird experience, they didn't quite know how to handle it. And they couldn't talk to anybody about it because naturally they would end up being teased. So they would come to me and tell me their story. And I would listen and then tell them, I say, yeah, I've heard other people have these same kind of situations, and no, you're not crazy. A lot of people think that that there's something wrong with them if they have seen a ghost or a UFO or something like that. And you could just see a lot of times just the weight lifted off of people's shoulders, after they told me their story, and then I listened and then reassured them that yeah, I believe that you had an unusual experience, and they'll walk away, and they may never tell anybody else ever again, but that doesn't matter. That they received that validation that I think that a lot of people look for when they have a strange experience. And that's really what got me into all of this. I mean, sure, the reports are always interesting, naturally, but it's these individual stories from people who have, they have no desire for any kind of publicity or to be written up or to make money off of their stories. That's the farthest thing from their mind. And so that convinced me a long time ago that people are having real experiences. Now, what those experiences actually are. That's why we're here talking about these kind of things. But the fact is that people are having unusual experiences. They've had unusual experiences since the beginning of time, and they
Yes.
really haven't changed that much. If you were to go and look at, say, like a ghost story from 2,000 years ago, it pretty much reads like the same kind of stuff that's happening today. So if the whole ghost and haunting things is a hoax, it's a long playing hoax. I mean, I think that almost as soon as we dropped out of the trees, a million years ago, maybe even before, we've seen ghosts and we've been haunted. And so the big
Lovely.
question is why does this happen? Why ghost?
I love that. Paul, go ahead, and then I'm gonna have a big question. I almost pop it out, but I'm like, okay, I'll wait. I'll be patient. I'll wait a little bit more.
Tim, you're very knowledgeable about many subjects when it comes to the paranormal. You've done books on mimics, Tesla, time travel. What is your favorite subject in the paranormal?
Oh goodness, yeah, that's a hard one. That's almost like asking out of your children which one is your favorite.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love them all actually. Right now, naturally, because of the ghost book, I'm kind of hot and heavy on that. And one of the reasons is that it's because I've had more ghostly paranormal types of experiences than all the other stuff that I have written about. I've only seen like one weird light in the sky one time in my life. That's that's my total UFO experience. I've never seen a cryptid. I've taken some photograph of weird footprints, things like that. But it's it's the ghost and paranormal experiences that really uh, has that's the thing that has embraced me the most, I suppose, when it comes to the whole paranormal realm.
Mhm. I love that. Are you okay, Paul? If I
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
go a little bit deeper?
Oh,
So, uh, thank you. I'm so excited. I must admit, Tim. As you said, you've been through many different subjects yourself, and you do a lot of study and a lot of research, and that's what I think most of the people love and admire about you and your work. So, my biggest question would be basically, as we are seeing and discovering many things, starting from ancient ancestors, abductions, galactic confederations, and more, or different kind of evidence is coming all around. Forms of life are found on the Mother Earth. Is there a possible that right now, at this moment, aliens are among us?
Oh, sure, it's possible. Yeah, yeah. Right now, we have a lot of anecdotal stories, and within the majority of the population, there hasn't. I'm not convinced that there is decent evidence so far on the reality of extraterrestrials here on Earth. Now, I have no doubt, that they're out there in the universe. Universe is huge. They just the other day they just released, I guess, the largest map of the seeable universe that looks like a cloud of dust, and each one of the tiny particles is a galaxy. And this picture looks like there's millions of these clouds of dust, with each of these little dots, galaxies, which have millions of stars within them. So you can't tell me that we're the only life here in this universe. Now, and I hate to say this because I have my doubts about the whole disclosure movement, but I mean, it could very well be that some government here on the planet has better information about the reality of extraterrestrials with us on Earth. They it just hasn't really come out to the rest of us yet. I still have to wonder, though, whether or not, our definition of extraterrestrials and the universe and our reality is woefully lacking. Because it could very well be that we do have non-human entities on Earth with us, but maybe they've been here with us the entire time. That they are a part of Earth just as much as we are, and just as much as they are a part of the entire universe, so are we. We are just at a point in our evolution where maybe we're starting to develop that ability to see beyond our normal senses, those senses that evolved with us and basically are just there to prevent us from getting eaten by that saber-toothed tiger hiding in the bushes. All right. There are some of us who are developing abilities to see beyond that, to get a better glimpse of the true reality around us. Now, we probably can't see what's really around us because I don't think our brains can handle it. If we can only see just a very narrow part of the spectrum, and if we could see beyond that, and if our brain had the ability to see beyond the third dimension and see all the other dimensions that surround us, at this point, we couldn't handle it. So I know that's kind of a winding answer to your question, Danielle. But going back to what you said, yeah, I mean, I think it is a possibility, but I have to question whether or not our definition of extraterrestrials is actually the reality.
And we do have private, basically, space programming now, like competition, private factors like William Shatner, Space Program T, and things go like that. So basically, when we talk about the human hybrids, many people did send me this question and they were asking me, can you please ask this? So we have Colorado mutilated cattle. When we talk about that, then we had issues in Australia in 50s. We also had many things happening around England in the 1980s, and then basically there's missing, people that are abducted. So many people are saying, is it possible that actually DNA of humans is being manipulated, and that somehow they are seeding their DNA inside of us? Because many of these, for example, ladies that were abducted, most of them said that they have been used, for the birth of the extraterrestrial or the alien. Some of them, they did go on lie detector test, and they said basically when, the child was taken away, they still couldn't control that child because it had DNA that belongs to us. And us as a females, we have that special connection with the child, nurturing and loving. So I'm very, very interested from your point of view and the research. What do you think? Is it possible that right now we do have human hybrids, and that basically, that aliens are using our, if I can say, wombs for maybe, doing the seeding or spreading between us?
Well, once again, I think the big question is what is our definition of aliens and extraterrestrials? It does seem like that there is some kind of program going on involving our DNA, but it seems to be a very long game being played out here. We're kind of looking at it within um, our lifetimes and just a couple of generations, and I have a feeling that this is extended way back to, again, back to the beginning of of our beginning, and probably will continue on into our future. um the big question that I have to ask is, if we are dealing with extraterrestrials, say from another planet, uh, how are they, first of all, how did they evolve on a planet possibly in another solar system
Mhm.
in a way that would make us compatible with them genetically, right? Now,
Yes.
I'm sure that there could be developments of science that would make us compatible, but if that was the case, then I would think that any kind of life form would then be compatible if you were able to develop like a super CRISPR, so to speak, that could manipulate DNA on a dimensional level. So I think that there's a possibility that whatever it is, whatever the intelligence behind all of this, the abductions and the UFO phenomenon, things like that, it could be it could be ourselves from from a different timeline. All right. Which would, would better soothe my curiosity on how these things would be genetically compatible with humans. If they were humans from our future or from another timeline that runs parallel to our own. Uh, uh, that to me would be a little bit more acceptable than a completely different alien species coming here and Mars needs women type of scenario. But so once again, I don't question the reports and the women who claim that they have had their fetuses taken away from them, or the men who have been taken aboard what appears to be craft and have had really frightening things done to them. uh, I have to question, though, the source of what is going on and whether or not, again, we are only getting just a very tiny tunnel visioned look at what's really going on. I have a lot of questions about the source of this phenomena, but not as many questions on the reality that it is taking place. I don't know if that makes sense, because my explanation, is kind of, goes around and around and around. But just because we are seeing and apparently dealing with non-human intelligence doesn't necessarily mean that non-human intelligence is strictly extraterrestrial.
Before I pass the question to my colleague Paul, I have one very important question. I'll put the glasses so I can see better, that I can read better. So, like you were mentioning encounters, and that's very important. So, abducted people usually are examined. Millions of people are being abducted worldwide. Abductees are substitutes to experimentation, genetic mutations, basically poking successfully. Some of the body parts are being tested for analysis. And I'm just wondering Did you ever had a chance to do the interview or get in contact or even do a little research about anybody who has been abducted and it was placed under this particular experimentation when, they were say these horrible stories? I know there's some in Canada here, and the one that when they went to the medical testing, it was proven that they were not lying. So to me, I'm just wondering what would be from your professional view, what would be your opinion?
Mhm. Oh, sure. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who have had these kinds of encounters, experiences. Most of them are stories that nobody else will ever hear, because they people will tell me their stories, um and I have to agree. I won't write about it in their lifetime or identify them, which honks off a lot of other researchers. But that's the least of my worries.
Mhm.
And the funny thing about it is that these stories they kind of run the gambit of different scenarios. There are a lot of similarities, though. In the 70s, a lot of these experiences would start from what I would call car abductions. People would be driving in their car at night, a UFO appears, they get taken on board, given an examination, and then let go. More recently, it seems to have turned more into bedroom abductions, where
Mhm.
people are at home and in bed, and these things will walk through the wall and take them, the same way through the walls. Um, so I even had one guy from northern Indiana who a craft of some kind landed in front of him as he was driving home from work one
Wow.
night, and this being got out, and uh, 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 they had a conversation, but he could never remember what the conversation was. That was, and I don't believe in really using hypnosis to try to dig out memories, because hypnosis can cause a lot of other problems.
Yes.
But he swore that this guy looked like your traditional white Jesus. The
Wow.
kind that, like the picture that a lot of people, especially in the 60s and 70s, had hanging on their wall, white skin, the long beard and hair and stuff. He swore that this entity looked exactly like that. And but what happened is that caused then the rest of his life, he had weird experiences, not necessarily always UFO types of experiences. He also had, back again to the ghosts and hauntings, he had, ghostly experiences and poltergeist, and
Wow.
what seemed to be like a weird creature that would stand on the edge of the woods behind his house and scream with like some kind of a like unearthly voice. It was almost like his UFO experience kind of opened the floodgate for him to other weird experiences, and you'll find that with a lot of people who have had the abduction experience, that they not only does the abduction experience occur again, uh, 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 with them, it'll occur to their children. It had occurred to their parents as well, but there
Mhm.
also will be other kinds of paranormal experiences associated with it. Which that's one of the big questions that we have to ask, is that uh, why do the two seem to walk hand in hand a lot of times? Not just two, three, or four, or five. Practically every kind of paranormal experience can also be associated with the UFO experience. And that's one of the big questions that we have to ask if we're dealing with strictly physical beings from another planet, why then do their appearance and whatever work that they are doing also produce paranormal activity?
Wow, a wonderful explanation. I want to say thank you for that. And I want you everybody to laugh, even you, Mr. Tim, for a moment. That was our cat. And she was trying to open the other door. So I'm jumping like, no, no, not into that door because I have a printer there, like the ink for printer and everything. I'm like, how did you open that door? So thank you for that explanation. I'll pass the torch to my wonderful co-host, Mr. Paul.
Paul, now your microphone is muted. There you go.
Whoa, okay, you guys can hear me now. Okay, listen. In this book right here, Tim, there's a section in here where they talk about do UFOs, ghosts, and cryptids all connect somehow? And well, I'm not going to give this stuff away, but but it's very interesting. Does it all connect? I mean, I've been to so many different places like Mount Shasta. You have ghosts, you have extraterrestrials in their UFOs, and you have cryptids like Bigfoot and stuff like that, even Bat Squatch. So that's really interesting. I'm not going to give you the answer to that, but pick up that book if you want to find out. One of the things about people being abducted by extraterrestrials, it seems that a lot of the abductees talk about that there was false pregnancies.
Oh, yeah.
1 minute they go to the doctor and the doctor say, yeah, you're pregnant. You're 3 months pregnant. And the next time she sees the doctor, the baby's gone. This fetus is gone. And what happened to it? So these false pregnancies happen. And then a lot of times too, some abductees say that when they are captured by these UFOs and taken aboard, they meet their hybrid child. And what the extraterrestrials are trying to learn is that this child, this hybrid, needs to be nurtured, shown love, shown affection. And they don't know how to do that. And they observe these abductees doing that. And that's something that they're trying to learn. My experience with the abduction phenomenon is during my time with military intelligence, I was really good friends with a major with the ROK Army. And ROK is the Republic of Korea. And he was in military intelligence for many years. And he told me, and I don't know if he's BSing me or what, but he told me that they had what was called angel stops. So an angel stop where the military was working along with the Greys and was allowing them to make so many different stops for abductions. And somehow they overexceeded that amount of abductions. And why we're allowing the Greys to do that is to get information on their technology. And when they start overexceeding those abductions, the military and the Greys kind of got into a skirmish. They had a falling out. So this major was very serious. He wasn't laughing about it or anything like that, but he was sitting there telling me this story. So I don't know. What do you think about all that, Tim?
Well, that is a story that you can trace that back to the 1980s with the Paul Benowitz case. And, Paul Benowitz was an electronic engineer in New Mexico who got involved with the Air Force after reporting what he thought was UFO activity over an Air Force base there in New Mexico. And he then became the target of a kind of a psyop disinformation campaign to try to steer him in a different direction from whatever it was that they were actually doing at that base, and to convince him that evil extraterrestrials were involved. So, and the story that you just related was one of the stories that came out during that time, and then got circulated all over the place. And in fact, as we're still talking about it today. I mean, here, this was something that came out in probably the mid to early 1980s, I think. And it's still part of our UFO mythology. Now, I suppose then the question is, because the information that was being fed at the time was disinformation, kind of a combination of truth and propaganda and lies and all that. So, we have to try to weed out what possibly could have been true, within these stories. Could that story have been one of the true ones, amongst the bull hockey that was being fed not only to Benowitz but to other people as well, because there was Soviet agents who were in the United States trying to get a better idea of our, especially aircraft technology, stealth drones that were being developed at the time. So there was a lot of feeding of UFO information into these circles, along with various kinds of possible extraterrestrials. So it's difficult to try to distinguish between the truth and the propaganda in these stories. But obviously there has to be some kind of initial source, in my opinion, where this stuff came from. One of my pet hypotheses is that, you've heard the stories, especially from the 1950s, where President Eisenhower allegedly went to an Air Force base and had a secret meeting with a landed UFO, where this whole treaty thing supposedly came about that you were talking about, Paul, that in exchange for technology, we would allow the extraterrestrials to abduct so many people, blah, blah, blah. And then we found out that, they weren't honoring the treaty. Well, one of my ideas is that, these things communicated, they came down, had the meeting, told stories like, we're from, Zeta Reticuli or whatever. And then later we found out that none of it was true, that everything that we had been told was a lie, and that we were back to square one on the true origins of this phenomena, whatever it is. So, you start throwing in these abductions and possible hybrids and things like that. I think that there is a grain of truth in all of these stories. We just have to have, and good luck with this, we just need to have better information on on what's really going on. But unfortunately, at this point, in the 21st century, everything has been muddied so badly that it's going to take a long time to clear it's going to take a long time, if ever, to clear things up. And we're constantly blaming the authorities, the government, and the military from keeping secrets from us. But face it, it's the other side. It's whatever this phenomena is that is keeping the secrets. All right. It's the one, it's what's operating in the dark, behind the scenes. And I think that any information that's going to come out, it's going to come out from them, from the other side, because our people, they don't know anything. They're just pretending that they know because they can't come forward and say, yeah, we know that UFOs are real, that they're flying around in our skies, but we don't know where they come from. We don't know what their agenda is, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. That's the secret. That's what they're not wanting to disclose, in my opinion.
And
for entertainment purposes only, folks.
That's funny.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Paul,
Yes.
you don't mind, Paul, if I just ask one question?
No. Go ahead.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
I see many of you in the chat are mentioning things. I want to say thank you, so many of you, for joining us. Please do share and continue watching, because this show is quite interesting, and we have amazing Mr. Tim Swartz here. Mr. Tim, this world is now very connected to artificial intelligence. And I was paying attention what people are writing. We know about Nikola Tesla being so strong and bringing many things, even at a long time ago now, formulas are being used for many things of the technology that we're using today. Yes, we talk about light, and the light was stolen by Edison. Then we have, many other formulas. Mr. Tesla was also trying to connect to, a UFO, and they said that he succeeded a couple times. Did he? I don't know. I wasn't in the room. Like you said, for entertainment purposes, let's say that he did, because he was such a wizard. He was, a man of such a high intelligence. Do you think that with today technology and using Nikola Tesla's formulas that we still do for developing artificial intelligence, are we going to be capable of reaching them ever? Or do you think they're going to show up first before we reach out to them? Just like, what would be your opinion?
Do you mean like, the non-human intelligence?
Exactly, sir.
Well, I think that we are already in communication with non-human intelligence, and always have been. It's just not. It just doesn't present itself in a way that, say, that we communicate with each other. Whatever this phenomena is, whatever this non-human intelligence is, it operates on a completely different way of thinking and how it goes about things than we do. And it could be one of the reasons is that whatever this non-human intelligence is that it operates outside of what we would consider space-time. Possibly it operates in in that place of no time at all, where everything all happens at once, and that it can pick and choose when it enters within our reality, which kind of, like, this goes back to the whole abduction scenario. I said at one point that they are playing the long game, the very long game, and I think that they're able to do this because wherever they operate out of, they can go and do something in our past, do something in our present, do something in our future. and it means nothing to them. But to us, it looks like that they are operating over thousands and thousands of years, when actually they are operating out of a place of timelessness. So I think that this communication is already taking place. It may be why we are the way we are today. Why one of the big mysteries of our evolution is, how did we come about? What was that big leap that took us from being pretty much like our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, to what we are now. Now we know that, the great apes have a very rich inner environment, just like us. They have consciousness, they have emotions, but there seems to be some kind of difference between them and us, which we still haven't been able to quite grasp yet. So was there some kind of interference in our development by some timeless entities, extraterrestrials, hyperconsciousness, however you want to look at them, that have constantly worked with us over these millions of years?
Thank you so much for such a detailed explanation. Paul, I'll pass the torch to you.
Well, I kind of wanted to get back to this book because there's a few things I wanted to talk to Tim about. Tim, I've been a paranormal investigator for quite some time. I'm retired from it. I'd rather do other things, write and stuff like that. But what I'm kind of curious about is like certain religions try to tell you that all ghosts are demons. And I had some people who lectured me. They said, Paul, really need to watch what you're doing because there's no such thing as ghosts. All these ghosts that you're talking about are demons. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, demons and unclean spirits have been part of it, again, from, from the very, very beginning. And every religion has their own types of demons. The fallen angels or the jinn or whatever. Well, the jinn aren't really demons. Jinn were smokeless fire created by Allah, according to Muslim traditions.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be a difference, though, I think, between ghost and spirits. And I think that a lot of people, when they talk about, like all ghosts are demons, they're kind of, getting themselves mixed up a little bit and thinking along the lines that, demonic spirits are the be all and do all of the whole paranormal gamut, but I don't think so. I mean, I think that that there's enough room for all of us, so to speak. But and I don't want to get into an argument in theology.
Yeah.
Because every religion has its unclean spirits, all right? But I think that it may be a little, like taking more kind of a tunnel vision aspect to think that every ghost is a demon, and that and that there's not room for anything else. But again, we're just working with hypotheses here. Nobody knows the complete truth, but I do think that that our consciousness, whatever it is that makes us who we are, is immortal and does exist outside of our bodies. And this includes animals too, including chimpanzees, by the way. Everything alive has a soul, you know.
I agree.
That is so true. Everything, every living thing has a soul. They even scientists have taken pictures of leaves, and it has these leaves have an aura about it. So yeah, that's very true. And I remember one time we did an investigation at this one house, and um, they were complaining that certain things were being moved around on the floor. Um, if they had the window open, they saw something go out the window. Come to find out, it was their deceased dog,
Oh.
and they were trying to tell me first off they thought they had a demon in the house, and they were a very religious couple. And from what we gathered, and we even got an EVP of a dog barking, and there's no dog in that house except the deceased dog that was buried in their backyard. And I said, it seems like you have a ghostly dog in your house. Why are you so much afraid of this? I mean, it's not a demon. And they started thinking possibly it could be a dog, but they couldn't understand because they brought out their Bible and everything else, and they said everything's a demon according to the Bible. And I'm going, you know, you kind of have to. Some things out of the Bible are missing. Some pages are missing. You know, yeah. So, I mean,
Well, Paul, I think one of the problems also, and this is more with the more recent times, is that there are so many reality shows now where I think because they're just wanting to sex things up a little bit, is that every haunting, every ghostly activity is a demon. And this has become a really popular trope. And so now you have people who say that they're experts on this, and they go to a house that may be having a little bit of poltergeist activity or whatever, and they just immediately declare that there's a demon in the house. And it's reckless. It really is, because there's poltergeist activity, especially is when it's taking place. It's always listening to what's going on, and it's very knee-jerk reactionary. So if you go into a house that's having some poltergeist activity and say, oh yeah, you've got a demon here, the next thing you know, your crosses are going to be hanging upside down and your Bibles are going to burn. Well, guess what happens the next day? Poltergeists are really good about doing things like that. If you were to go into a house and say, well, I heard that poltergeists like to tear up family photos, which is something that you generally don't do all the time. But then the next day, the family photos are all torn up. It's very, the phenomena can be very reactive, and this. I mean, you've been to a lot of things. What a family thinks and says out loud has a lot to do with how certain kinds of hauntings then respond.
I want to add something about that. I was listening very carefully, and thank you, Mr. Duke, for joining us. Great Duke is in the chat line. So we're very happy to have you, Mr. Duke. He was here with us. The past two shows was quite amazing. Mr. Tim, what was quite interesting to me when you mentioned something, it is a consciousness. I am doing a little bit research and study on that, and I'm actually reading the recent Mr. Dan Brown's book about the consciousness. It's quite a secret of the secrets. It's quite interesting book, and it's give me a lot of opening. But it is proven what we ask for, we receive. So, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, as we talk about, the rules of the physics. So I would like to ask you one very important question. You're talking about, evil spirit, darkness, and, or whatever we wish for. Is it possible also that people with their own energy can open, the doors to these dark forces, to these spirits, to invite them into their homes? It doesn't matter where they are, where they live. Is that apartment, condo, tent? It doesn't matter. Home is a home, and then they invite them because they constantly have negative thoughts.
Yes, negative thoughts do play, I think, a big role in certain aspects of this phenomena. The late Paul Eno wrote several books along this line, and he basically developed a theory that a lot of these cases are caused by what he called parasites that are basically things from parallel realities that are able to interact with ours, which is not very fair because we can't really interact with them, but they seem to have the ability to. And they feed off of negative emotions. And in fact, in our book Weird Time, I have a chapter in there from Paul where he actually goes and tries to categorize, some of these different types of parasites that he has ran into over the years of his investigations. But these things feed off of negative emotions. They feed off of fear. And so, yes, I mean, you have what's called the hitchhiker effect that especially people who were dealing with the Skinwalker Ranch.
Mhm.
If they would go to the Skinwalker Ranch with a very skeptical, negative type of attitude, it seemed like that whatever energies were taking place there would target them the most. If you would go there kind of, open-minded and unburdened and not trying to be, like Mr. Macho Man and shoot everything on sight, then the phenomena wouldn't really mess with you. But with the other people, it would mess with them, and then it would follow them home and mess with them and their families at home. So now, what kind of phenomena are we dealing with that has this kind of
Mhm.
ability to not only mess with people on levels that of reality that we really don't understand, but then have the ability to follow you from their place of origin and kind of establish a new base of operations for a while. And this is anybody who's researched a poltergeist activity, knows that this is not uncommon and can happen with say researchers who have taken stuff back
Yes.
to their home from a poltergeist haunted house. There was one case where in England where the poltergeist was a letter writer, and it would write all kinds of letters and then somehow was able to find like stamps and envelopes and mail these letters to people. But then after they would receive these letters for a while, they would have a kind of low key, but still activity in their home as well. So it's almost like sometimes this kind of activity is like a virus. You catch it, you bring it home with you, it propagates for a while, and then dies out.
No,
And
thank
Tim,
you so much for your explanation. Thank you.
yeah, and Tim, that reminds me of the story about the lady who went to the antique store. She bought a grandfather's clock. This is supposedly a true story. Brought the grandfather's clock back to her house, and all of a sudden, her house became haunted. There was
Oh.
paranormal activity. She heard footsteps. She heard disembodied voices. Cabinets were opening. All kinds of things were happening. And she consulted a parapsychologist who told her that possibly the grandfather's clock was haunted and to take it
Mhm.
back to the antique shop and get your money back. And that's exactly what she did. And the haunting stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know, it makes me wonder whether or not there is a similarity between stories like that and these stories that you hear of people who have organ transplants. You know, where say, you know, you get a new heart or kidney or something like that, and all of a sudden you start developing the same kind of likes of food or hobbies that the donor had.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
yeah, but taking it on a completely different level with material objects, you know, are the things that we love in our lives, do they become a part of our energy field, so to speak, that then continues on, you know, for a while? uh who knows, you know, how long some, you know, some of these people, I mean, you know, who knows how long that clock, as you were talking about, Paul, had been setting excuse me, in the antique shop, yet it
Hmm.
could still muster up enough energy to cause haunting activity.
Yeah, Mr.
Right.
Tim, I would like to share something with you and with everybody in the audience. I'm sure Paul heard about this. This is something that you may be capable of answering from your experience and, from your research and the studies. My great grandma, they were taken to concentration camps, and basically at that time they would take everything from them, and somehow she was capable of saving her wedding ring. Her husband was already previously to that taken away and killed. And he was the life of her life. Everybody knew that. And basically, what happened, they said that she put it and she hid it under kind of, they had two or three skirts and underskirts. So she somehow hid it in one of the underskirts. So when they got freed from the concentration camps and they ended up home, basically she passed away. My mother was at that time 11. I wasn't born, so that was in 1960s. My great grandma was buried and everything with the priest and appropriately. She was very, very wonderful lady. And basically, my grandma, so my mom's mother, thought if she takes that ring and she keep it, that would be the only thing that they have from Papa, because they don't have nothing else. Everything else was burned, destroyed in the war. So this would be something to keep. So she took it and they buried Grandma. 4 or 5 days after, she would see Grandma Georgia coming to her and saying, "Bring me back my ring.
Hmm.
Rada, I want back my ring." And my grandma got really, really scared. And, she went to the priest. And the Orthodox priest said to her, "You know what? That is her ring. That is something that she even saved through the concentration camp. This is her belonging. It's connecting her with her husband. You should give that back to her." So, of course, she was already buried, and it's a little bit different because they have a burial plots and they have like a marble around. So what they did, all what my uncle did, she left the marble plate a little bit, and she was capable of taking the ring and just drop it in there, and that's how it ended up. But that story ran in my family for quite a long time. So when you're saying the attachment, this is something that we knew about, that maybe great grandma that we loved and respect so much was loving so much, because it was the only way of connecting her with her husband, who was already taken away by the list of Nazis when they picked them up. So I'm wondering, what do you think? And I'm sure you heard the stories about that.
Oh, that's a great story. I love that one.
Thank you.
Um, it's yeah, it's for a lot of people, it's at least initially, I think, after you pass on, there are still some remnants of desires for the physical.
Mhm.
And part of that is things that have a great emotional attachment. Your grandmother's ring, possibly a grandfather clock, things like that. That when they are then removed from where they are supposed to be, causes it stirs things up. It stirs up that what you thought was a cold coal in the fireplace, and it blazes up again. um you see something similar with people who move into a house, say like an older house, and start doing renovations in it, and that'll stir up activity a lot of times. And again, it makes you wonder if you're dealing with somebody who has passed away and has left this material world. Why would they care one way or the other if you are repapering the stairwell? you know
Yeah.
Things like that. But it does. And that's one of those universal things that if you were to tell, well, okay, Daniela, if you were to tell your story about the ring, replace it with something else, that, more available in a time period, go back 2,000 years, tell the same story, people would just nod their head and say, yeah, I've heard that before. That's the amazing thing about this phenomena, is how unchanging it is. 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years into the future, will we still be saying the same kind of stuff going on? And that's the question that I want to know, is why. Why
Yeah,
is it,
no.
if it is a hoax, I mean, if there are no ghosts, if there are no hauntings, why have people been telling the same kind of stories for generation after generation after generation if there wasn't something to them?
Oh,
And
beautiful.
Tim, something, and Danielle, this reminds me of one of my investigations. Okay,
Oh.
in this investigation, they had some paranormal activity happening in the house and everything else, and they were freaking out. Well, when we got my team over there, come to find out, they did some renovating and they did some ceiling work, and from the ceiling they were able to go into the attic where some squirrels were and stuff like that. And in the attic, and this house was like built in the 1800s, in the attic was a diary of one of the previous
Oh.
owners. And I said, the haunting of this house is because this diary may have been disturbed. And one of the things the lady was talking about, which really made me sick, because I'm not a historian, but I love history. She was talking about uh, burning the diary or throwing it away, and I said, "No, no,
Oh.
no, 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 no! Don't do that." I said that. I said this spirit is intelligent. They're probably listening to you and are really upset because they don't want this
Mhm.
diary destroyed. I said, please give it to me and I'll donate it to the California State Library. And I bet you anything the haunting will stop in this house. So the lady agreed. She goes, yeah, you can have it. I go, great. And I did. I donated it to the California State Library, and the haunting did stop. So
Wow.
yeah, so yeah, I mean that just you guys really put my memory back to that investigation. But it was yeah, I couldn't see that diary being destroyed. It was horrible.
I
Mhm.
think the ghost would be more upset and angry because, like you're saying, she's probably hearing what you're gonna do to her property, and
Yeah.
probably it's her life stories in there. You're playing with somebody's life. I personally have a lot of antique in my home, Tim. I'm not gonna lie to you. I never felt anything that it's haunted. What I'm scared of mostly is alive people, what they can do, but not the dead people. I'll be honest to you. I'm very sensitive and I can feel things and energies, as you know. Um, but as you're saying, there is something an attachment to certain objects, even psychology, because I do study and I did study psychology in a medical field. We are connected. Probably remember we were all kids. We had a favorite toy. All our energy, all our protection, all our best thoughts, and even our best friend is that toy. It doesn't matter if it's a teddy bear, a doll, bunny. I don't know. At this time, we have these Spider-Mans, a little bit different. But I think it's all about our energies, our thoughts being connected to this object, and it's proven that every object has a energy. We think stone doesn't have an energy because as we touch it, it doesn't move, it's not alive, but everything around us has energy. And that would bring me to a next question, and I would like to ask you something when we are done with the question. We are going over time, and I'm wondering, would you be capable maybe to join us next week at the same time for an hour and a half, because people really would love to hear more about your book, of course, and about your study and the research, if you're free. And my question would be: is it possible that we can transfer the energy, like you're saying, from the ghosts and spirits to somebody like a child, especially because they're more vulnerable, or like Paul is saying a lot of times, to a dog or a cat, because a lot of times they're also attacked?
Well, first of all, I should be able to come back
Oh,
next week.
thank you.
I can't right now. I can't think of anything that I have previously
Thank you.
going on, and you know, one of the ideas that I present in the book is that um, when you see this kind of ghostly activity, um, we are probably not dealing with a ghost as we traditionally think of it, as our disembodied soul, all every part of us, haunting a place or becoming attached to an object or a pet or even a person, but instead we're dealing with a fragment
Hmm.
a fragment of a person that is left behind, basically, because it's supposed to be left behind. We are our true essence, our souls, whatever you want to call it, that spark that goes back to the ultimate consciousness that leaves our body. You have the near death experience and all of that goes, but there are parts of our consciousness that develop on the material plane, develop on earth, and then remains on earth after that our true essence goes away. And
Hmm.
I think that is what a lot of hauntings are. There are a lot of societies, the ancient Egyptians, Chinese, Polynesian cultures, who believe that we have more than one soul inside of us. You have the main soul that goes to the great beyond afterwards. And then you have like the breath soul, some of them call it, or the earth soul. And that's the part that remains behind and then slowly dissipates as the energy runs out. Um, because it's supposed to. That is what is supposed to happen. It retains some consciousness, some memories. If you go and look at a lot of, say, like psychic mediums
Mm-hmm.
who talk to spirits, and especially those who are supposedly haunting a house, the entities are don't seem to have a clear memory. They are rather unaware of the passage of time. Um, and it's they become attached to the places that they loved and lived. Sometimes they stay attached to their bodies. That's why cemeteries can be haunted. They're not haunted because your true soul is there haunting it. No, it's that fragment, those leftovers, that those are the ones that pay attention to whether or not you're buried properly, or if you were just chucked in a ditch somewhere.
Oh.
Um, that's I mean that again, we'll go back to this whole uh, 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 universal aspects of ghost and hauntings. One of the big things that's been with us from the very beginning of time is that ghosts will haunt because of improper burials.
Wow.
And this could be because that fragment that is left behind is very well aware that it's and again, you're talking about a fragmented mind that
Mm-hmm.
can be very childlike and and very culturally relevant. Okay, if that makes sense. If you
Yes.
were raised in in an environment where you were taught that you couldn't rest until your body had been buried properly in the place where you were born, whatever, all right,
Yeah.
that fragment that's left behind is going to stick to that. And if it's not appeased, it's going to haunt. It's going to haunt as long as it has the energy to do so. And living people, can then feed into that energy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, these, haunted furniture, haunted houses, haunted cemeteries, I think that these are fragments of people that have been left behind. Um, and you can go and exercise them all you want. You can go and tell them that they need to go to the light and everything like that, and they may, these fragments may say, oh, I see the light, I'm going, and then next week be back again.
Wow.
It's because they're not supposed to go to the great beyond. It's there. It would be like cutting your hair and expecting your hair to continue growing like the hair on your head. That's a horrible metaphor, but it's the best I can come up with at the moment. But I think it's the same way with our with our consciousness and our true essence. I mean, you have that part of us that is part of the divine, and then you have that part of us that was meant to help us live our lives here on the material world. And that's the part that kind of sticks around for a while after you die.
Thank you so much for your explanation. Before we let you go, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, we will probably have Mr. Tim Swartz again next week at 5:30 p.m. MT time. You can calculate that to your time for hour and a half. We'll go a little bit deeper in ancient Sumerians, Anunnaki, transfer of the energy, and of course, going deeper into his amazing book, where you can find it, how you can order it. and go into the world of spirits and ghosts. Mr. Paul, I will let you have the last question before we close.
Well, Tim, I'm just real curious. Where can I find your book at?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, just maybe someone's throwing a copy away on the street or something. You get if you've got a copy right there, they can come to you and ask to borrow yours.
I want another copy. I want another one.
Well, right now, the easiest way would be to go to Amazon.com and just type in my name, Tim R. Swartz. And that book and all the other ones that we have written will pop up. The Persistence of Ghost is available both as a print ebook and an audio book, as well as our previous book, Weird Time: Exploring the Mysteries of Time and Space. You can visit my website, which is still somewhat under construction. But you can see some stuff at timrswartz.com.
And you know something? In that book, there's some cool pictures. And you got some real ghost photos in that book.
Well, supposedly they're ghost photos. And, that's another thing that, we can go on next week about the certain kinds of commonalities with ghost photos.
That would be
that
would be fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not gonna keep you any longer. I know many of you would like to stay longer. We already did pass the time. But that happens when you have such a wonderful guest, and we don't want to be also very disrespectful to him and taking his precious time. We're looking forward to see you again next week, Paul, and hopefully Donnie will join us next time. He had some family things and matter to take over. He's actually moving to the other side of the state, so we wish him good luck in that. We will see you, ladies and gentlemen, next week. God bless you all. Mr. Paul and Mr. Tim, thank you very much for joining us. Have a blessed week, everybody, and see you next Monday, the same time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night now.
Good night.
Good night.
Born from shadow, sealed in truth, ancient blood, but faith rooted proof.